everybody. I'm Dr. Beverly Wright. Welcome to our panel about humanity and AI. We're super excited to have this conversation with you. Let's start off with a few introductions very briefly, because I know our time here is very limited. We'll start off with some introductions, and then we'll dive right into the topic. Eileen?
Hello, everyone. I'm Eileen Orial, CTO of PatGia, and founder and a president of a technical advisory and solutions company called Think Tech Mode. We are based out of Johns Creek, Georgia. We're specializing in AI and digital transformation, among other things.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Christopher Record. I am currently chairman of the National AI Task Force for Jamaica, and also a deputy chairman of the National Identification and Registration Authority, responsible for digital identification and creating one ID for the country. And I'm currently based in Kingston, Jamaica. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Faizan Javed. I lead data science and engineering at Kaiser Permanente, which is a healthcare company. And before Kaiser, I built and led data science and engineering teams across various industry verticals like e-commerce retail, finance, HR tech, and so forth.
Excellent. And as mentioned, I'm Beverly Wright. I'm from a company called Wavical Data Solutions during the day. I'm part-time at University of Georgia, Go Dogs, Executive Education Group. And I'm the chair of the Data Science and AI Society at Technology Association of Georgia, where I host a podcast called Tag Data Talk. We're thrilled to talk about this subject today, and I first want to mention that this is a very provocative subject, and there's a lot of controversy surrounding it. So I want to start off by saying that all the opinions and expressions that you hear from this panel are their own personally, don't necessarily represent their companies. And so to set the stage a little bit further, psychologists, when they think about humanity and how we operate, they oftentimes look at humans from three dimensions: cognitive, conative, and affective. The cognitive is your brain, and this is your mental, this is your thought, this is the things that you know, your knowledge. The conative, these are the behavioral aspects, like why we do what we do, the crazy things that us humans do. They don't always make sense, but it's our hands and our feet. And then the affective are things that are in our heart, the way that we feel. So if someone says, hey, what do you know about Sheetz? Is anybody familiar with Sheetz with a Z on the end? It's a convenience store. I don't know why, I just think it's so cool. I love Sheetz. You know, I love Sheetz. The owner of the company is Louis Sheetz, and they started this year. So that's, I love them is more affective. Knowing information about them is more cognitive, and going to buy things from them is conative. So given these three dimensions, let's think about how are we as humans transitioning ourselves in the age of AI. So let's start off with the cognitive. Many of us are knowledge workers. So how is AI potentially impacting, or what are you starting to see as far as how it's changing the way we think about things or our ability to absorb knowledge? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think as it pertains to a cognitive load, right? So using AI, I can share two examples. So if you take the example of search, for example, like search, most of us have been using search via multiple applications, right? So back in the day, there used to be a guide published which used to show you how to write the proper search query, right? Over time, with progress in natural language, we see that now search engines are able to give you what you want just by expressing your needs in fluent natural language, right? So that's an example of where we see that the cognitive load has shifted from humans to AI. Another example can be in the healthcare space, where we have physicians. They're nowadays using a lot of ambient AI scribes, which automate transcription and take care of a lot of doctor's notes for you. They can automatically create those, and they can actually even propose personalized treatment plans.
So the need to,
yeah, so
to
needs
really
has
have
shifted
to
from
memorize and
yeah.
really think about things.
Exactly.
It's kind of shifted, like we've moved it to the machine. We sort of handed that over. Any other thoughts on our cognitive abilities and how those are shifting?
I would say it also attribute to the creativity that to the output of what we're trying to achieve. I would say it increased our creativity. Rather than spending more time on mundane, repeatable tasks or administrative overhead, we're able to offload that to AI so we can focus on more creative aspects of what
I
we
see.
do.
So the heavy lifting on certain things, like we're never going to be able to outcode a machine, right? Like I was a SAS ninja, but I'm never going to be able to outcode a machine. So sort of removing that or shifting it to the machine gives us more ability to do the things that are more human-centric, like creativity.
I
Interesting.
would say so.
Okay.
Definitely it has with our companies.
So I would just throw something on the flip side.
Yeah.
For some of us, it may be making us a little bit more lazy, right? So I get invited to speak on a lot of panels and a lot of discussions in and around the Caribbean around this topic. And there are sometimes when I may get a call from a radio personality to get on and talk about something tomorrow morning. Usually, before AI, I sat and I planned and I wrote out my notes and everything. But sometimes I said, okay, you know what? I will do that later and I'll put it off because I'm going to use the tool and technology. And then in the morning, the phone rings. Hey, the reporter is on the radio. He's ready to talk to you. And I'm like, oh my. And then at that time, I put in a prompt, bang, hit the send, and then I get a script. Now, I know the knowledge. I understand it. I've been in the industry for 40 years. But I didn't sit and write the notes. So I know just glance at the notes, and I'm now able to sound amazing to the millions of people listening online. But I was being lazy in my preparation. Is it good or bad for the end user? They don't know the difference.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned that there are more people that are becoming more lazy with this abundance. That's just one of my thoughts.
No, that's a good thought. That's a very interesting one too, because I've heard some perspectives that say, well, it's making me smarter because it would have taken me forever to do this, and then it just spit it out, and I learned from it. And then I hear more people actually say the thing that you just said, which is, I'm just letting the machine kind of run it. And there's all this talk about human in the loop. Well, what if the human doesn't want to be in the loop? Like there's a space for the human in the loop, but what if they're just accepting? So in some ways you're saying there's a cognitive laziness, if you will, where, oh, the machine will take care of it. I'll be able to do this
Correct.
quickly.
So the cognitive laziness will come about if you're not using the tool to prepare the tool to work with you as a partner.
Just to make it do the work.
Right. So for me, and I just use ChatGPT, the paid version, the plus version, because you can go in and do the customization. So I've actually gone in and customized everything. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is the type of answers I always want from you. This is my background. Here's what I have my credentials in. Here's all my experience, and that is saved. So each time I ask a question, it's me plus.
Right.
It's me plus.
Not you instead. Not
Not
of you.
instead of.
Right.
Exactly.
It's you with
Yeah.
augmentation, if you will, to kind of do some of the heavy lifting and support and help you. So those are some interesting thoughts about how our cognitive abilities are going to shift. But what about, how does this impact our behavior? You've already kind of hinted about some of the things that we're doing differently already, but what are some of the things how are we behaving? How are we responding when it comes to AI in this era?
So I will confess that the term cognitive, I actually just learned maybe 5 years ago when I decided to do some psychometric assessments on my entire management team.
Nice.
And the Colby assessment is one that speaks about the cognitive, and that's what it tests. And so in doing that, I noticed, and again, whether it's laziness or support, I'm in a board meeting, I got this report from the CEO of the company, and the instant I read it, I looked at the person dead in the eye and I said, you didn't write this.
Oh.
And the person, said, I said, okay, you may have written a prompt, but I said, how do you know? I said, dude, I've been using AI for the last year. I know. So that person's innate style, their general way that they handle things didn't come across because they're not relying too much on the machine.
Interesting.
And
Well,
I
and it
think
makes
that's a
you
bad
wonder
thing.
too, if we keep doing this, are we even going to have a style? Or are we going to modify our style based on the output that we're seeing from machines, right?
I mean, we should keep our authenticity, definitely. I mean, it all depends on how we want to take this on, right? We can either use it to our advantage to enhance us, make us more productive, creative, increase our output, or vice versa. Oh, AI has it. I can just type it in and get the information and go versus, okay, now that there is AI, I get to focus on some of the things that I've always wanted to research, or maybe we need to focus on some other areas that can better the efficiency and productivity of our company. So it all depends on how we leverage AI.
So the choice is ours.
The choice is ours.
But
so-
are we thinking about it? Are we really considering it? Because it sounds like if I'm hearing you right, we have to make a decision to say, this is okay, I would like to invite AI into this part of my life, but I don't want to invite AI into this part of my life. Like, we have to choose, and are we actually choosing, though? Like,
What's-
And there's consequences to our actions as well, to like everything we normally do. So if we invite AI to unconsciously make the choices to make AI make us lazy, then we're going to suffer those consequences as well. Maybe early dementia. I don't know.
Yeah.
So definitely using it to our advantage is the key. And everybody in this room is using AI, but how are you using it?
Yeah.
How is it enhancing your lives versus crippling you is definitely something everybody should be conscious of.
Faisal?
Yeah, so I think, in terms of behavior, right? So we have to make a distinction where sometimes it seems that people are trying to compete with AI on intelligence. So that's like one dimension, but there are other dimensions where we still expect humans to be sort of quote unquote superior, right? So in terms of, let's say, bias, ethics, fairness, even creativity and problem solving, even though we see that a lot of models are trying to improve on problem solving aspects. So going back to what the discussion was saying, right? Is AI going to make us lazy? I think we have to be very fine-grained in terms of like what tasks are being offloaded to AI, because I think once you offload a certain task, it doesn't mean that you absolve of all responsibility of trying to understand how the AI is doing it, right? So the critical thinking part is elevated.
Yeah.
So we have to balance that, and then also make sure that, especially as I mentioned, in terms of fairness, bias, and ethics, humans should dominate and not let the AI make the final decision.
So are there lanes, though? It sounds like you're saying that maybe there are some lanes, like this is where we can lean in and play, but these are the things that sort of go to the machine, and we have to kind of make that decision ourselves.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we need to make sure that the output AI is giving us is correct. So we always have to be a step ahead of what the AI is producing. Especially when we're introducing AI in our companies, there has to be some predefined guardrails before we introduce AI and make sure its output doesn't cross some boundaries, especially security boundaries, ethical boundaries. Therefore, we have to be ahead of AI before introducing it. And that is impossible to do. I mean, we can't know and crunch data as fast as the computers do. However, everybody comes to the table from their own knowledge base and point of view and perspective, right? So therefore, when you couple that with what AI gives you, you can get the sense of that's probably correct, or most probably it's not correct.
Yeah.
So where you catch AI hallucinating versus not is very critical, especially in business, to our success.
Okay, I think I'm hearing you say there are two big themes I'm hearing is the final say, and the north arrow, if you will, on the compass has to come from the human. And secondly, you really have to be deliberate. Chris, you started to say something earlier.
No, I was going to jump in and say that although it's in 2022 when this version of AI and this, how would I say it, this understanding of AI was unleashed on the world.
Yes.
Those of others of us who have been researching and in technology for longer know that AI has been around for a while, and because there was a fear back then around AI, it was given nice names and all these other, whether it's machine learning or expert systems or whatever the technology was at the time. So I'm just saying that to say this, that we have been relying on AI for a very long time. We have been being allowed to be led by AI. We scroll, the various algorithms show us content that we inadvertently not realizing that because we liked and the questions we asked and how we were communicating with people using our digital devices, then the back-end AI, which they didn't, for those of us who know it's AI, but the tools and technologies have been pushing our content in our eyes. Also, for those of us in small towns or small cities or small countries, like I'm from Jamaica, we knew how to get from point A to point B without Google Maps. And then all of a sudden, now that Google Maps is there, we never ever drive anywhere without starting Google Maps to say, oh, well, it's going to show us the best place for traffic, no traffic. So this reliance and this just, whether it's laziness, whether it's just putting the effort where we want the effort to be, is that it's been there for a while and we didn't realize it.
That dependency and reliance, I'm glad you mentioned that, because in conversations about our behavior, I think that is a very key topic. I want to go back just real quick before we move on to the affective, emotional side of what we're dealing with in the AI era, to something that you mentioned earlier, Chris, which was you could tell right away this was not written by you because I've been using this for a while, and also you have subject matter expertise, and so you've been in this world and been in this working environment for 40-something years. I think I heard you say. Yes. I feel the same way about if a model is produced by something that's automated, I can tell like that was an automated, like I can tell that you just pulled that from, fill in the blank, AutoML. But what happens to us when another generation and then maybe the generation after that one comes along and maybe they haven't done these things by hand. They've never produced something on their own. They've always gone straight to the machine. And so just real quick, do you think how's that gonna change how we behave?
Yeah, we need to handle that at our education system, definitely. Giving kids tools so they can strengthen their abilities cognitively without relying on AI, so that they can continue to strengthen their reasoning, critical thinking. That's very important.
Critical thinking. So you think maybe our critical thinking is starting to change?
Right. We definitely need to.
So I think in this case, just using education as an example, right?
Yes.
And including, I'll give an example from computer science programming where back in the day, people used to program using assembly language. Mm-hmm. No one does that anymore because the layer of abstraction has risen. Yes. Now people then moved on to using programming languages. Right. And then even then, so there has to be a fine line where at some point in time we have to say that, okay, well, AI can handle these usually repeatable rote tasks. And then the extra bandwidth that people have, they can spend that on other more skillful tasks, right? So what is that fine line? I don't have the answer. But using this example from programming, we can see how things have changed over the previous decades, right? So.
For sure, absolutely.
So Bev, let me just also jump in here.
Go ahead.
I just finished reading this book by Jonathan Haidt, I think that's his way he's pronounced his name, called The Anxious Generation. And after going through the research and studies that he quotes in the book, I mean, he ends with a big caution for our children. And the fact that the recommendation is do not be giving these children any devices until they're 14. Now, there's, of course, controversial discussions about that type because of how it affects your behavior going forward. And so even with my own two children, I mean, I have a 17-year-old and a 20-year-old daughter, I try my very best. I mean, I think the horse has gone through the gate with them, but the fact is that I try to ensure that they also have a play-based childhood versus a screen-based childhood in forcing them to go and just do stuff outside.
Right.
And it's a struggle, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that kind of brings us to where do we stand emotionally in the AI era? And there's some research that shows that it's kind of bringing us down emotionally and we're becoming more robotic and lonely. And sadly, we're using the AI to fill the gap that it created. So it's almost like taking a drug that provides side effects, and then you take another drug to fill the side effects. But where do you guys see, what kind of things are you starting to witness, or what do you think is coming down the pike when it comes to like our emotions, our ability and our empathy and just how we're feeling about the world in the AI era?
So as the system's getting smarter, I'm getting more worried. And I'm getting more worried because I did a training recently for some, I'll call them elderly folks because they're much older than me and I'm old. So after a couple of weeks, you know, one person, they're in their 80s, they came back to me and said, it's almost like they're making a friend. And I'm like, stop. This is not a person you're talking to. Just remember that. And I had to keep just repeating that to her every time we saw each other because I felt that there was this moment where, hold on, there's going to be conversations that are not going to be too pretty. If you keep prompting and giving information as if you're talking to a human being, you're not talking to a human being. So I think that's a challenge that we have to figure out and have to work out.
Yeah, for sure. I just came back from a global competition, and it was a simulation for how multiple countries would work together to come up with an ethical AI standard. And one of the things I noticed is that one of the countries kept referring to AI by pronoun, and the other countries were very uncomfortable with her saying, "Well, he told me this, and he did this, and he said I should do that," and they were saying like, "This is a machine. Don't forget that." That's an interesting point.
I think going back to your point, right? Yes, in terms of emotions, there are both pluses and minuses. So for example, in the mental health space, there are new chatbots coming out that can actually help engage patients, right? Of course, with human supervision. On the flip side, you know, in terms of negative examples, we are seeing that, due to social media polarization, right? So behind the scenes, we have these AI systems that can actually personalize the content towards some both positive or nefarious gains, right? So that's another area where you can have, segments of a country just being polarized,
Yeah.
both positive and negative. So that also plays into emotions. So how do we manage that? That's also an open question.
Yeah, for sure. In our final 3 minutes, I would like to know what final piece of advice would you give someone for trying to understand, how do I manage myself and my humanity? How do I manage my humanity in the AI era?
But I would say with every change, we have to take the necessary steps to adapt to it. Crawl, walk, run mentality. So we are somewhere between crawling and walking with AI right now. But at the same time, some parts of AI is in the running with the reasoning ability getting introduced. Therefore, we have to, as a humanity, to protect our authenticity. We need to put some guardrails into ethics side of AI and technical advancements, just putting guardrails as to what all it can do to our businesses, to our mental health, but it also depends how we approach AI, using AI in every area of our lives, such as, I hate ironing, but if I have a robot that irons for me, I would love that.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean it should make me lazy. So we need to leverage it to our benefit.
Make decisions, be deliberate.
To make decisions
Right.
for our benefit.
Okay,
Exactly.
Chris?
Just to add to that, it's around leading with curiosity, allowing the tools and technologies to help us to become better humans and not just more efficient humans. We don't want the machine to turn us into a machine.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So we must just lead with curiosity. Let's explore. It's a machine that's been programmed to solve these problems. Let's push it. Let's leverage it to the maximum capability.
Oh, that's great advice. Yes.
And then, so the term that I want the audience to leave with is AI should stand for augmented intelligence, not artificial intelligence. It should be man and machine working in tandem to make effective use of the use cases. And of course, we also should not compete with AI on intelligence. And what do humans bring to the fore? It's actually the fairness, bias, ethics, and creativity at this point in time. So that's my parting message.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much for your thought leadership on this incredibly important topic. And I hope you guys enjoyed our session about humanity and AI. Thank you.